What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode here at Truck Motion. Today, it's actually a service day. So today we don't get to wheel. We just did the rig check episode, and I wanted to make sure that I shared this piece of it all. Because honestly, if you wheel hard or you wheel often, regardless of how tough it is, it does put wear and tear on everything that you do. And the Gladiator is about to hit 60,000 miles. I think we're like at 54 and some change. I will be doing a 50K review on it also. But today, we're going to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to do a T-case oil change and also the transmission. So this is going to be a two-parter. We did buy some upgrades too, so we did do a PPE oil pan instead of the traditional one. This is only $300 and it's a lot better. It's supposed to cool a lot better. It already comes with a filter. You will be reusing the gasket that's on your stock one. The performance should be a lot better. This is something that a lot of people use like on a lot of their diesels and whatnot that are towing, but because we are putting such wear and tear, we do carry a lot of weight. Having the transmission be happy is really, really important. And obviously we're going to do the T-case. T-case is also one of those things that you have to really watch. I haven't really kept up with it as I should, and I started kind of notice the transmission acting a little weird. So I'm going to switch this all out, see how it acts after that. So I have everything here that you'll need. So we're going to do the T-case first. The T-case is going to need a 13mm socket, a 10mm socket. Then we'll use a Torx. Obviously we have a pump, brake cleaner, a couple things. Make sure that you always switch out to, I recommend the AT4 from Mopar. There is a couple other things you could do like Redline and whatnot, but honestly it's been happy with OEM stuff, so I'm just going to continue to use OEM stuff. I'll show you what we have to remove at the bottom to get to the transfer case, and then we'll obviously dive right into the transmission. It's not a super tough job, but there is a couple cycles that you have to do. So this is a cheap pump I bought on Amazon. You could probably get it at Harbor Freight or whatnot. We're gonna dive right in though. I'm gonna go just set the mat, get everything cleaned up. We're gonna take, there's like a skid plate that's guarding the T-case, and then we'll get right into it. Alrighty, so once you get underneath, first things first, you're gonna have to remove this skid plate here. Your T-case is right above here. So I think I've seen a couple variances of this, like there's a 13 right here, and there's 18s right there on the sides, and two 18s up here. Some of them have double. It just really depends. I did switch out my skid, so I think it might have been another bolt that was on here that was factory, but I didn't have it. So we're gonna remove that so we can remove this piece here, and then we can get to the drain and fill plug. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out and get to it. All right, we're gonna start with the 13 first. If your bolts are pretty scraped up, it might cause you to have a little bit to work around. So like the 18 doesn't fit there. This 18 barely fits there, so you might need a hammer if your bolts are pretty worn out. So I'll show you the difference here. So if your bolts look like that from just excessive rock crash and whatnot, you might have to kind of tap them in, maybe use a bigger one and then try to get them loose. Same thing with this section here. I might have to pry that out before I even get to it. So I'm gonna get to that and then I'll continue removing them out. All right, team, so after some finessing and messing with this, we were able to finally get it off. But as you can see, these bolts are toast. So this is a good time to replace any hardware that's really damaged. Obviously, you can still reuse these if you really wanted to, but they're kind of a pain in the ass. Even like this one's still completely stuck onto the bowl. I have to pull this off with some pliers and whatnot. But it's a good time also to go ahead and paint this. So if you want to clean this up, paint it up a little bit. Mine is crunchy, man, so you could even replace it if you really wanted to. The next step after you remove the skid is grab a 10mm Allen socket, and we're gonna go ahead and remove the drain plug and then use our oil pan to drain it all in, and then I'll show you guys how to fill it afterwards. So let's go get it. Alrighty, and if you're pretty mechanically inclined, obviously you probably already know how to do this, but it's a good way to check any other drain and fill situations are usually like this. You'll have the drain at the bottom, and then you have the fill plug up top. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna drain it out of here, let it do its thing, and we're gonna take both of these plugs out, clean them. That's what the brake cleaner is for. And then once we dive back in, we're gonna close this out, and we're gonna start filling it from up here until it actually drains a little bit. It should take about 2 quarts from what I've read to get it filled up and draining. But the cool thing is, like I said, when you're filling any T-case or transmission, you're gonna keep pumping and filling it till you start seeing it kind of drop out. So we're gonna get into that and get going. All right, so we're gonna do the drain plug first. It is a 10mm Allen socket. You're just gonna remove that, get your drain right away, get your oil pan ready so it can drain out. And mine is pretty nasty. It's been a very long time. Like I said, I have about 54,000 miles, and honestly probably should have done it sooner, but here we are. We're gonna get it done. The good thing is I'm looking at the plug right now. It doesn't look to have any metal shavings or anything like that. So we're gonna go ahead and clean these drain plugs. And then you also want to put Teflon on this one and on the top one as you put it back in. You could either already see it has Teflon now, so we're gonna let it drain and kind of clean the area before we put everything back together. There it is. Alrighty, so now it looks like it's completely drained out pretty much for the most part, but I just want to show you the plugs up close. So once you take some brake cleaner to them, put some Teflon on them, that's what they want to look like when you put them back on. You want to kind of start it with your hand, put that in there, and then you're going to use your 10mm to get it all tightened up here and get that in there. I'm just going to hand tighten it now. We'll go back with the Torx and torque that correctly. But that's in there now, just so it won't drain anymore. We're going to get this pan out of the way, and we're going to get the fluid to get it popping. Alrighty team, so we're gonna go ahead and put the hose in. So this cap right here doesn't actually match the cap that's on this 5-gallon. I'm not sure if it would work with all of them, but honestly, it's a really cheap one. You just put this in there, stick this in through here. This is a 5-quart gallon. You're gonna use about 2 quarts, but again, it won't really matter. What you're gonna do is you're just gonna keep pumping till you see it come out. All right, so you can start seeping in, and yeah, it's about half of this. Give it a couple more pumps. Once you start seeing it trickle out like that, that means you're good to go. So there it is. Get that out there. Make sure you have your oil pan still ready, and then you grab your next one, your next plug, put that in there, tighten that bad boy up. And then I'll just hand tighten it for now. I'll come back and I'll Torx it. But don't forget to put some Teflon on that. And that's pretty much it, man. You're pretty much done there. Just clean the surface, clean the area. I think I forget what the torque spec is, but I'm gonna look it up right now. Come back in there, tighten this correctly, then put the skid plate back on. We're not gonna put this on just quite yet, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna take off these 2 skids to get to the transmission, and we're gonna go ahead and do the PPE upgrade on that. So stay tuned, let's get it. Alrighty team, so I just wrapped up the T-case, cleaned it all up, put it all back together. I am going to have to put the skid plate back on, but like I said, I'm not going to do it till after we do the transmission. I'm actually going to drive into Drink and Chill. We'll start this video back up tomorrow where we do the transmission. It'll be all together though, so that way you guys can use it. The cool thing is too, you don't have to buy a different fluid. It's ATF4 for the tranny also. The tranny is going to take about, it's supposed to be 6 if you use the stock pan, but I think we're going to be putting closer to 7, which is just perfect because this one is 5 and then this one has 2 left over from the T-case. I bought these on Amazon. I believe they were like 34 bucks each, so you get to switch it all together if you buy 2 5-quart jugs, and then that'll be taken care of. So now that the T-case is done, we'll get back to it. We'll do the transmission next. I think the only thing you'll need for the transmission is the 18mm bolt to take off the cross member. You'll need a T40 socket to remove the bolts from the transmission oil pan, and then that's it. This PPE pan is an aftermarket one, so it does give you their specific hardware, so you can mount it back on, but it's a lot nicer. This is a little bit bigger. Again, this does have its own filter. All the instructions, the sticker, and all that good stuff is there. It's supposed to give you more cooling, obviously, because of the fins and whatnot. They do have different colors too. You can get it in the all black, you can get it in the black and brushed, and then you can obviously get it in just this. This is the cheapest one, but that's pretty much it. We're gonna dive into it tomorrow. Transmission, here we go. Alrighty team, as promised, it's the next morning, so we're going to continue the job, finish it up. I just ran out of time. We had Drink and Chill and a few things that I had to take care of, but we're going to dive right in. So what you're going to do first is we're going to remove the cross member that covers the transmission pan. I think it's just 3 bolts that are 18s, so we're going to get down there and knock that out. And then a Torx 40. There's a specific way you got to do it, just so that way it drains properly. So I'll show you that as we get there. Let's go. Alrighty, so now that we're down here, I can show you where the bolts are. So there's gonna be a bolt right here, a bolt on the other end, and this one right here that I already removed. I had a couple skid plates here. So I had a skid plate that was here and a skid plate that was here. I removed them already because it was one of those where the bolts were all really damaged from just hitting rocks and whatnot. And the way you wanna drain your oil pan is you wanna unbolt it all slowly, and then you want to unbolt the front side, so which is the back side of the pan, but the front side of the Jeep. And that way it tips over this way and it drains out this way. Once it starts draining, you're going to give it a few minutes. It'll drain out, it'll stop, and then you want to unbolt it slowly and then drain out as much as possible. And then you take the whole pan out and then continue to drain it out. Once the whole pan comes out, the PPE one should just slide right in. Sometimes in the 3.6, I've heard that this hits, so you might have to shave down the fins a little bit. Hopefully we don't have to, but if we do, we do. We'll have to knock that out. I know they have a pan for the 2-liter turbo, I think 2.4, whatever that motor is, and they also have them for the diesel, and those you don't have to modify at all. Sometimes, again, this one gets in the way and we have to knock that out. We're gonna go ahead and remove this and get going. Alrighty team, so as you can see, I took it off finally. I did have to fight this one a little bit. I even had to cut it a little bit. This side was okay, but you can see after crawling and running it into rocks and whatnot, you start bending it all up. So you can see all of it's pretty damaged. This is the part where I had to cut it because it was so sandwiched that it wasn't letting me get to the bolt. So I had to cut it so I can make space. You can buy these pieces. I think you can replace them. Honestly, I'm just going to put it back on because mine's going to just end up getting pancaked again. It's just to kind of support the T-case and transmission. They both have one. The other one's right there. So I'll be cleaning both of these up. I'll probably spray paint them, just kind of clean them up a little bit and get new hardware for them. But they'll go back up. So now we're going to go down there. We're going to drain it. You will need a T40, your drain pan. So we're going to go down there and knock it out. But you want to do is unbolt it from the front side. Still catching it all. I'm just gonna have to clean up the exhaust a little bit. So I'm gonna give it a couple minutes and then I'm gonna go ahead and start removing the whole pan. I'll show you what that looks like when it's off. Honestly, if you're on a flat surface, this should be no problem. I think my driveway is off a little bit, so it caused everything to go the opposite way. But yeah, you want it to drain that way. You don't want it to go backwards like I just did. Even though it really doesn't get anywhere, it's just easier to drain it this way. It got on the exhaust right here just a bit, but I'll just clean that up and then it'll burn off as soon as the truck turns on. But there it is. It's gonna drain for a few minutes and then I'll take it off. Alrighty team, so as expected, we took the last bolt off and the actual exhaust cross here, the crossover does get in the way. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna unbolt this side right here, let this hang down a little bit just to give us the space to put that in. And then we'll have to check the fitting once we put the new PPE one in there, see if it rubs or if it's too close. And then that way we can shave it down. But right now we're gonna remove this bolt right here. Also, I do have a dual battery setup, just in case you wanted to know, because I know I've told a few people that that I did have a dual battery setup and they usually think it's just a mini battery up there, but it's right here and it is right up all the way to the top. And this is a skid plate from Super Winch. I'm not sure if they ever released this, but you can check their website and see if they have it if you want to do something like that. But yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna bolt this, get it out of the way, and then take the pan out. Let's go. Alrighty team, so now that I removed it, that's the exposed transmission, part of the life of the Gladiator. There it is. It looks good. Honestly, I don't know how much you're gonna be able to see from down here anyways. We're gonna check the filter and the magnet and see how it looks. But you do have to remove this piece right here. It's a 13 millimeter from the top. Loosen that up, it gives you enough gap. So we're gonna go ahead and clean the surface too. I'm gonna get some brake cleaner and kind of clean the area where it's gonna mount back up, just to make sure everything's nice. And then obviously clean the area that did get a little bit wet and put this all back together. Let's go. I'll show you guys the comparison between the PPE and the original. Alrighty, so I got both pans right here. This one's up in the front and this is the back. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this one around also so that way you can see what it looks like. There it is. So you can see the filter. You can see the filter on this one is way bigger than this filter. And to remove this filter, all you got to do is take these two off. There's two tanks. Remove that one. Remove that one. And then you can kind of take this off. And you can kind of see in there and see if there's any like metal shavings. And then you can clean these up right here. These are the magnets right there. So you got one right there, one right there. Looks like they have a little bit of gunk in it, but I don't know if it's a lot of shavings. The cool thing about the PPE one is it does have a drain plug. So let me grab this. This one has a drain plug, so when you do drain it, it's a lot easier. You won't have to do the mess. You still have to remove it to check the filter and replace it if you wanted to, because the filter is nice and clean on this one. But this one does have about 55,000 miles on it, so I expect it to be a little gross. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look. Let's see. It is a little mildewy. Yeah, so this oil was definitely bad. There's a little bit of residual in there, but nothing crazy. It's just, you know, see, nasty. Honestly, I waited a little bit too long. The pan on here does say it's lifetime and all that good stuff. I mean, you could probably reuse this, get a new filter, and you're done with it. I'm obviously just gonna upgrade just because I do have the magnets in. But what you're gonna do also too, you're gonna take this gasket off of here. It's a nice gasket. Just make sure you don't damage it. You're gonna have to peel it off a little bit. Use a little skinny screwdriver, get that off, clean it off, and it's gonna go back on this one, and then you're gonna mount it back up. So we're gonna go ahead and get this ready, clean the surface over there, clean the gasket a little bit with some brake cleaner, and then we'll go ahead and mount it up. Alrighty team, so we just finished removing the gasket. This is what the gasket looks like. I did clean it up already. That way the surface is nice and clean when it goes back and installs. This does have a little alignment tabs, so you'll put the alignment tabs right back into the pan as so. Goes like that, and then it's gonna drop right in. You just have to kind of mess with it a little bit. You want to be careful too. You don't want to mess any of this stuff up. But you get the tabs in there. There's another tab right here. But there it is. This one, again, did have kind of, you know, it's been sitting there for 50,000 miles, so it is kind of stuck. I used a nice little pick to kind of start it off. And then I used a screwdriver to kind of just wedge it nice and slow all the way around. So that way it didn't damage the actual seal on this. So, but yeah, it's all pretty much all done. You do get your own hardware from PPE. But it looks like it's an Allen nut of some sort. So I'm going to look at the size and I'll let you guys know what it is. Alrighty team, so before we go into the install, I did want to show you that the instructions on here actually tell you how to do it also. It is an M6 bolt, so that's what the bolts look like. You're going to use a Allen socket basically to put it in there. And you are going to use AT4. Make sure that if you do switch out and use something different, that it's still MS9602 equivalent, because it is going to be part of what you already have in the system. So when you drain your transmission, not the whole thing comes out. About 70% of it comes out. You still have some in the gears and in the clutches and whatnot. So you want to make sure that you use whatever's equivalent. So just go with the OE. Honestly, it's the best one. It's worked before, it's going to work now. The capacities are a little bit different. This is going to use about 5.5 quarts if you use a stock one, and then we're going to use this one, which is going to take about 7. So the good thing is, because we did the T case, we still have a couple here and then a whole new 5 quart jug. So we'll be able to knock this whole thing out. And it's going to be the same process as the T case. Once we install this and get it all torqued correctly, the torque specs are 8 to 10 foot-pounds. You know, it has its own diagram on how you should tighten it all up. We're going to fill it exactly the same way. We're going to keep pumping it till you see it spout out. And then there is a little sequence that you have to do. You have to start the truck, get the transmission warm, put it in reverse, do a couple things. I'll show you what that looks like. And then we're going to go back, fill it again, and then you'll be done. So then we'll get out to the road, test it out, just make sure everything's okay. And then we'll go back to installing all the skid plates. I probably will have to replace a bunch of bolts. My skids and my cross members are pretty beat up. A lot of the bolts are pretty shot, so I'm probably gonna go ahead to the hardware store and buy a bunch of 18 millimeter bolts. I don't know what the thread is on these, but I'll take one with me and match it all up, and that way it's clean. At least that way, you know, it gives me a fresh start if I ever have to take that stuff off again. But PPE, let's get it. We're gonna install it now. All right, so I'm down here again. You want to clean the surface up a little bit, so you just take a rag, wipe all around it, get that surface nice and clean. I did put a brake cleaner on this rag, so just kind of cleaning it all up. And then if you did get some on your exhaust for now, it's a good time to clean it because your pan will be in the way. It is going to be dripping just a little bit, so if you're right underneath it, make sure you have some safety glasses on. But there it is. That's cleaned up. And then we're going to get the pan in here. All right. So once the pan gets in there, just want to make sure you line it up properly. The cool thing is the exhaust is gonna hold it, and it is like not, this one is notched already. So I was watching videos of the first, maybe the first series, it wasn't notched yet, but this one is notched. So there is a washer in there that goes in there too. So I got the first one in, the other one in there. Get them all in there by hand right now. Just kind of let it hang still, and then we'll go back in. We'll put them in with the gun accordingly, and then we'll go ahead and torque everything the way it's supposed to. Make sure all your bolts are going in smoothly by hand. You don't want to cross thread these bad boys because it is part of your transmission, so it'll be a pain in the ass later. Okay, so I'll show you what it looks like all on. There's the PPE pan. It's not torqued down all the way correctly yet, but I will. Again, you'll have to unbolt this piece just to kind of get it all in there, and then we'll bolt it back in there. But there it is. It went in nice and smoothly. I'm gonna go back and tighten all this stuff, get it all ready, and then I'll show you how to fill this bad boy up. Let's get it. Alrighty, so I'm down here. Pan is completely done. So I do have a big bummer that you guys probably won't have to worry about unless you have more batteries also. But my battery is actually in the way of the fill plug. So the fill plug's right there, right behind this battery. So now I'm gonna have to remove this battery to get in there and to fill this up. Give me a second. I'm gonna go ahead and knock this out, and then I'll get back to filling it. Alrighty team, so back to it. I just removed my battery. It was right there. Now it's right there. That was kind of a pain in the dick too. So I just want to show you where the fill plug is. It should be right about there. You can see the red light shining to it, but it's right there. You take that off, you put your hose in there, and you pump till you start seeing it drain. And then once you do see a little bit of a leak, then you're gonna follow another step that I'll show you here shortly. But we're gonna go get the AT4 and start loading it up. Alrighty team, so I just did about 5 quarts, and then you can see it starts dribbling out a little bit. So now we're gonna go inside the vehicle, and we have to do like a shift session, just so that all the liquid gets through the whole transmission. Then you got to come back down here when the transmission is warm and go back in and check that you could fill it. So that's just all the clutches, everything gets oiled through it before you seal this up completely. So right now we're about 5 in, and then we should have to put probably maybe another 1.5 in there and get it all sealed up. Alrighty team, so now that I'm done underneath with the first part, we got to come back in here. You want to get the trans temp. Once it warms up to 86, what we're going to do is we're going to do a shift pattern. So from the shift pattern, we're going to go reverse for 5 seconds, drive for 5 seconds, then you're going to go manual, second gear for 5 seconds, then you're going to go back to neutral for 5 seconds, and you're going to rev it up to 2000 RPM and just kind of keep it there for 5 seconds. And then you're going to go back to park, and after we go back to park, you're going to go back down underneath, you're going to remove the fill plug, and then you're going to fill it again till it's ready to go. Alrighty team, so if you have Off-Road Plus, you can also push that so you can check all your temps and whatnot. As you can see, trans temp 86, that's the minimum before you actually start doing the cycling. So at 86 now we can start doing the cycles. So again, we're going to hit the brake, make sure you hold brake. You're going to go reverse for 5 seconds, drive for 5 seconds, manual, second gear for 5 seconds. Then we're going to go to neutral, and you're going to rev it to 2000 RPMs for 5 seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's 5 seconds. So we're going to go back here, and then you're going to hold brake, go back to parking, go to confirm, and then you go back underneath, and you're just going to basically do the same thing. You're going to open up the fill plug, fill it till it drips, and do that one more time, and then you should be done. So we're going to go down there, open up the fill plug, and put some more fluid in it. Let's go. Alrighty team, so there it is. You'll see a little bit of a drain as soon as it fills up. So you can barely see it because it's a little dark on me, but yeah, you're just going to fill it the same way you did a T-case, same way you pretty much do anything, even when you do your diffs. Anytime you fill it, you wait for it to spout out. You just got to remember to cycle it through the gears to make sure the whole transmission gets it. I just checked both my quarts here. Looks like I had about 8, you know, give or take the best part of 7.5, 8 quarts. It took about 6.5, 7. So I'm going to wait for it to cool down a little bit. I'm going to open the drain plug one more time, just top it off. And if everything's good there, we're going to go ahead and seal it up. But I'm going to clean this up, and then I'll close out the video. Alrighty team, so that wraps up another episode here. We just finished the transmission, T-case. Make sure you guys service your rig before I did. Don't wait that long. I would say do it every 30 to 40, depending on how heavy you're driving. And if you're off-roading a lot, do it sooner. Again, if you want to do the PPE one, you can. I paid for it. It was about $300, and then the fluid was another $100. It takes honestly about a couple, 2 to 3 hours. If you're pretty proficient with wrenching it and whatnot, you can get it done pretty quickly. The T-case is a lot easier than the other one. I had to remove some extra parts and whatnot, so it took me a little bit longer, but you guys shouldn't have to do that, and should be pretty easy, man. So we're gonna run it like this, see what happens. Hopefully it's a lot better for us, and either way, the oil had to be switched out. So you know, it's all about maintenance and keeping it up with it. So thank you again. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, all that good stuff. Check out the podcast if you haven't already. It's on Spotify, and make sure you join Patreon. Honestly, it helps us a lot, helps us continue to wheel. Obviously, service, gas, all that shit costs money to continue to film and whatnot, but the Gladiator's there. We're gonna finish this up, continue to service it. There's some bushings and stuff that I have to do up front. We won't record any of that because it's a boring, easy stuff, but there it is. Make sure you get AT4, make sure you cycle your gears, and make sure you take care of your car because it takes care of you. The more you maintain it, the better you get to wheel. So we'll see you anyways. We'll see you on the next episode, and peace.